Hello, welcome folks. This is the first video for the Open Source Data Guide channel. Today we're going to talk about how you can run PyTests and generate a coverage report in Azure DevOps CI pipeline. So the whole idea came to me actually because recently I had to implement actually this to a project. And let's imagine you have a feature branch and then you create a pull request, right? And then you want this pull request to actually trigger a CI pipeline. And in this case, we want the CI pipeline to install the project dependencies, run our tests, generate a coverage report, and then actually upload the results to the artifacts folder of the pipeline to be able to actually see on the UI, on the Azure portal UI, the actual coverage report. So what we're going to end up with if we run this code is basically for the pull request, we'll see a nice summary page. The next step, it's going to be our tests, the number of tests, the pass percentage, and some other stuff, some other information about our tests. And then as our extra tab here is the code coverage, where we're going to have this nicely rendered coverage report with the total coverage percentage. And then if we missed a couple of lines in a file, we can see that, okay, these lines are actually not covered with tests. So for this actual pipeline, I created an example project. You can find a link for this repository down in the description. In the README, you can see that I tried to explain it short what this project or what you can find in this project repository. And let's start with the most important part of this project is the Azure pipeline YAML file. So in the beginning, we specify a couple of things like when we say here that when we actually create the pull request and target the master branch, we want to include a couple of files here, basically our project files and then the pipeline file, and then the image for the virtual machine for the pipeline. And for the stages, we define a couple of things. For example, condition, like we want to trigger the pipeline with pull requests, or I actually want to have the option to trigger the pipeline manually as well. And then in the other sections, we define a couple of tasks here and pass some scripts as well. The first task in our case would be a cache task, which is a predefined task from Microsoft. So what it does, it actually improves build performance by caching files and dependencies. Really nice task, really easy to use. In the documentation, you can see you have a couple of input fields what you can pass to this task. And then in the next section, we define a small script, basically we're installing Poetry and then installing the project dependencies. After that, we define another script section. Here, we're going to actually run a pull task. The pull task is defined in the PyProject toml file. Basically, I just wanted to keep the pipeline YAML file clean, but we're going to check what the actual pull task is doing. But this, what it does, it runs the test and creates a coverage report for us. And then as a last step, which is the most important, is to actually take these coverage reports and then output them to the artifacts folder for the given pipeline run. And for that, we're going to use another predefined task from Microsoft. Basically, you can use two different coverage tools. In this case, we're going to use the Cobertura coverage tool. Again, same as for the cache. You can find a couple of input fields that you can pass for this task to fine tune it. And then if we go back to the actual repository, we're going to check real quick the PyProject TOML file. So this is where I defined the PO task. Nothing fancy here. We're going to run our PyTests, and then what we're going to also do is we're going to specify the coverage report output to XML, and then I'm also specifying here the PyTest Cobertura XML style for the output XML file, because it can output different style of coverage XMLs, but we need the Cobertura style XML output. Also giving the HTML report output as well. And then another important flag here is the no coverage upload, because at this point we don't want to upload anything to anywhere, right? We just want these files to be generated. And then the last part is another command. So the whole reason why this project is actually created is because Azure decided a year ago or something like that they are not gonna run any CSS or JavaScript files from the artifacts folder, because it can contain some malicious code, right? That's fine, but in this case, we're gonna end up with only an HTML file, and a pure HTML file is not really nice. In order to make it visually appealing, we need some inline CSS. And for that, we're going to use the PyCobertura Python package. What the PyCobertura Python package does is, well, you can do a couple of things with this, but what you can do is use the show command. And by using the show command, you need to pass a coverage XML. And we're going to have this coverage XML because we run the Python coverage command, and we specified the Cobertura style XML, right? So we're going to pass to this show command a coverage XML file, and it will output it in a nicely rendered way. This is the default usage. You can specify the format to be CSS. It's still the same, but in a CSS format, or you can use Markdown as a format if you want to output your coverage results to a Markdown file. Or in our case, what we're going to leverage here is the HTML format, and then we're going to output it to an HTML file, to a specific folder, and then we're going to use that folder to actually copy all of its content to the artifacts folder. So this is what we do as a last step, as the last command. We're using the same PyCobertura show command, specifying the HTML format and then the output to this location. And we're passing the coverage XML file to this command. And in the end, we're going to end up with, as I showed it in the beginning, a nicely rendered HTML file with some inline CSS. And in our artifacts folder, we're going to have the index.html file and also the coverage XML as well. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time.